Hey folks, welcome back. So to start off this week, we are picking back up on this running gear, and as you recall, what we're trying to do is we're trying to pull this thing apart to see how much length of this inner tube we have inside of the outer one, and hopefully we're going to be able to stretch this out a little bit before we start building our mobile chicken coop on top of it. Alright, well, we've gotten this moved out a good bit because before we had about that much outside, so we've moved it another 2 inches or so, and it's really starting to move well now. The only problem is I can't get the loader to start. I think it's something related to fuel pump maybe. Usually when you first turn the key on, you hear this sort of clicking sound, which is, I believe, the fuel pump kind of priming the system, and it's not doing that and it will not start. So that is kind of dead. So what we're gonna try doing here, because we got this thing suspended off the ground, and if you don't put the arms down, they'll slowly go down on their own, and then it can make it really tricky getting in there. So you can still drop the arms even without having the machine on, just because they've got weight, and you can move it so that the hydraulic fluid will just kind of drain out of it. Kind of got to make sure we do it right, or otherwise I'll get myself stuck in there, because if the arms are still part way up, you can't get the door open. This ought to be interesting. Alright, so as you can see, we got some cinder blocks underneath these wheels. So this will allow us to just drop it a little bit, and the arms will still be high enough that we can still get in and out of the door, but we can hopefully detach this chain from the arms and from the running gear. Hopefully that'll make it a little bit easier. Well, that seems to be as far as it wants to go. Not sure why, but when I'm unlocking the hydraulics, it won't go any further down. So I'm not sure what's going on with this. So I guess we'll just leave it as is. Alright, so today we are going to do some work on these doors right here, because they rub a little bit, kind of more in the middle, which actually is over top of where our beam runs across there. So I think it might be a little bit higher. Maybe our floor joist has shrunk down a little bit. So there's a little bit of rise, just a little bit right in the middle there. So I think if we maybe take a little bit off from the bottom of the door, just kind of bring it down just a little bit, I think they'll swing a whole lot better and hopefully won't rub. Alright folks, we are getting a late start at it here today. I think it's about 5:30 or so, but the reason for that is that I have been running around today getting some new parts right down there for the loader. hopefully in another 20 or 30 minutes, which will be more like a couple minutes in your time, we'll have this thing back up and running. Alright, and since we had to take off the fuel filter to be able to get to the fuel pump, we're just going to go ahead and replace this while we've got it off. Alright, well, assuming I put everything back together right and I was correct about which part is bad, we are going to go turn the key and hopefully we're going to hear a little clicking sound and that fuel filter bowl is going to start filling up with diesel fuel. Alright, last day for this week, and I got some good news. The loader, as you can see that it is now moved, is now working. As it turns out, there was also a blown fuse that somehow I missed the first time around. I think that was in addition to the fuel pump being out. I haven't swapped it back out to put the old one in to double check. But I'm pretty sure the old one was bad, and that may have been what caused the fuse to blow. So that's back up and working, which I am very pleased about because that has been more or less all I've been working on this past week. So today we're going to work on a few other little projects. First off, I brought some more stuff out to put up here in the loft that I've had stored elsewhere, so we're going to move all that stuff in here, get it put away where it needs to go, and then we'll get going on a couple other little things. Alright, with the stuff moved up here, we are going to put the final touches on these workbenches in that we need to get a few more screws on the pegboard to keep that from bowing out, and then I think we are done with those for the time being. Alright, now we need to finish another project that we started, I guess, this week, which is the doors. And the doors are fine where they are, but some of the screws that I took out had been kind of a little bit rounded off when I've been putting them in. So I picked up some new screws this past week, and we're going to put in the rest of those that were missing on those hinges. Alright, now we are going to work on rewiring the table saw here. Now the way this thing works is it actually has kind of an external motor on here. It's not really part of the saw itself, and for whatever reason that I have not been able to figure out, the way it was wired is that the motor is hooked up to this outlet, and then someone made a double-ended cord to plug into this. So one end would plug into here, the other end would plug into the outlet, and then your saw would turn on. Now this is a really dangerous way to do this, because if you plug the one end into your outlet, you now have two exposed prongs that have electricity running through them. So all you would have to do is touch that and you're going to get shocked. So I don't really understand why it was made this way, but we are going to change this. We are going to put a switch in here instead. That way we can just flip that one way or the other to turn it on or off and plug in the other side. Should be a little bit safer. Alright, well we've got this almost wired. I need a few wire nuts to kind of hold a couple wire connections together here before we can totally wrap it up. But we're just about there. We got our switch in there, we got that wired up, we got our plug on the other end of our cord here, so we're just about there. I just need a couple more things, so we'll have to totally finish this off next week. So I think this is kind of gonna do it for this week. Hopefully we'll be picking up some little sample cans of stain sealer for the mill house, so we can start testing out some of that. For like the last couple months they haven't had them in stock. I think just because there's been all sorts of crazy stuff going on with shipping and stuff like that because of COVID and all that kind of stuff. They just haven't had any of the small ones around. They haven't been able to get them in. So I think they've got them in stock. That's my understanding. So maybe next week we'll pick up some sample colors and we can try out some different stains. We'll grab a scrap piece of siding and put some on that and see how they look. And we can start kind of moving forward on that. And I think I'm forgetting something that I wanted to mention that I'll be doing next week, but that's just kind of normal at this point that I forget to say something. So we're just gonna let it go. So I guess that means that this is gonna be it for this video. As always, I appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you next time. Alrighty, he's rolling.